coffee, and we live. Welcome to another episode of the James Nolan Podcast. Today we got a lot to go over. First off, should the Mets target Sean Manaea in free agency and bring him back? It looks like he's going to get paid a lot of money, somewhere between 70 and 100 million are the rumors right now. We just saw the New York Yankees make a big move earlier today, trading Cody Poteet to the Chicago Cubs for the former MVP, won that MVP in 2019, Cody Bellinger, who is coming off a great year with the Cubs, really back-to-back great years with the Cubs. So a great move for the Yankees, trying to go out there and find that, not necessarily a Juan Soto replacement, but since they've lost Juan Soto, they have been making money move after money move after money move. They go out there and they trade for Dillon. They go out there and they sign Max Fried to an 8-year deal. And now to top it off, they get Cody Bellinger. Are they done? Do they need more? Probably. I mean, they still have a lot of holes to fill in the infield. Is Bellinger going to play first? Is he going to play center? We'll talk about all that in a little bit, but the Yankees do have some holes to fill. Alex Bregman is still on the open market. Mets are rumored to be really interested in him. Pete Alonso, and so are the Yankees actually too. Pete Alonso, both Mets and Yankees interested in him too. What's his market going to look like? We talked about that on the last pod. You can go check that out if you want on why I think the Mets really need to bring back Pete Alonso. But he's also a good fit with the Yankees as well, because the Yankees still need a first baseman. Yes, Christian Walker is still out there as well, but Christian Walker's a little bit older. He's really only had about 3 really good seasons compared to Pete Alonso in really 3 out of his 5 full years, not counting 2020. He hits over 40 bombs, drives in over 100 RBIs. A down year for him is hitting 240, hitting 34 bombs, and hitting 88 RBIs. So that's a down year for somebody. You know, you kind of like that. You obviously don't like the down year, but, you know, it says something that Pete Alonso's down year is 34 home runs and 88 RBIs. But this episode is surrounding Sean Manaea to start, so we'll get into Sean Manaea, but soon we'll get into some football talk. Jets, should they bring back Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams? You can check out my most recent article on fansided.com/JNolan, well, /author/JNolan, I believe. Go check that out if you're interested in reading that. We're going to be talking about that later. I think Aaron Rodgers should come back. I think Devontae should come back. I hope we don't trade Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce. I don't want to trade any of them. I don't want to rebuild. I think the Jets have a better chance to win with Aaron Rodgers, and they can still kind of rebuild. They can still draft that young QB within that top 10 pick that they are projected to have. Right now, they have the 8th pick locked up, but that could always change if they win this week against the LA Rams or down the road in these next few games. Got 3 games left, so we'll see that. The Giants, rumors are starting to heat up. Looks like Joe Shane might be sticking around, but Brian Daboll might go. So we'll see what's going on with that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well, but they definitely need a new QB. We saw Shedeur Sanders throwing some passes with Malik Neighbors last week in New York City, sparking the eye of the Giants fan. They want Shedeur. Do they want Cam Ward? We'll get into all that in a little bit, but let's start it off with Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea coming off a great year, went 12-6 for the Mets this season with a 3.47 ERA, made 32 starts with San Francisco in 2023. Only started 10 games, but then again, pitched in 37 games with an ERA of 3.90. In 2021, he had a great season too with Oakland, 3.66 ERA and made 32 starts. So this guy consistently for 4 consecutive years now has appeared in 30-plus games. So Sean Manaea is a reliable arm. He's a dependable arm that you know, well, hopefully he doesn't get hurt next year, whether he signs with the Mets or another team. But that's the reason a lot of teams are also interested, not just because of the improved stuff over the past few years and he's a lefty and he's got great stuff. No, it's also the fact that he's a dependable starter. He's a durable starter. You want a durable starter on your team. We saw the Mets. They got a lot of starts at a lot of guys last year besides Kodai Senga. David Peterson stayed healthy. Luis Severino stayed healthy. Jose Quintana stayed healthy. And obviously so did Sean Manaea. So David Stearns, yes, does he not, like, he doesn't want to go after those big fish free agents in the starting pitching market. We saw him not go after Max Fried. We're hearing that he's not interested at all in Corbin Burns, who's I think he's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. He doesn't want to go after those guys because those guys are going to command big contracts for a lot of years and a lot of money. And it's a risk. It is a risk. Signing a starting pitcher to a multi-year deal with a lot of money, that is a risk. Much more of a risk than signing an offensive bat like the Mets did with Juan Soto or trading for a Cody Bellinger. It's a little bit more of a risk when you get that pitcher because obviously pitchers get hurt more than offensive players. But Manaea, I think the Mets need him. The Mets need pitching badly. No matter what they do on the offensive end, whether they re-sign Pete Alonso, whether they bring in Alex Bregman, maybe Christian Walker, maybe Teoscar Hernandez, maybe Santander. He's also another good option, a power bat who had a great year, 40-plus home runs this past season. They need pitching. No matter what they do with the lineup, they need pitching. Because right now, as it looks, Kodai Senga will be their 1. The number 2 will probably be David Peterson. Then you got Klay Holmes, who was introduced to the Mets fans today with his press conference. He had some nice things to say. And, Klay Holmes is a question mark because he's never been a starter. Last time he was a starter was the minor leagues, and his first year in the bigs. Didn't put up great numbers, but David Stearns sees something in him, and I trust David Stearns. But it's not, eye drawn that Klay Holmes is going to be your number 3. Frankie Montas, he had a great year a few years ago. But outside of that, Frankie Montas has slid down a little bit. But then again, he is a dependable starter, a durable starter over the past few years. And we see Stearns want those durable arms to just consistency overall. And we got that pitching lab that everybody talks about. We saw Drew Smith last year stating how he loved the pitching lab, how he feel like it reshaped his career, how he was throwing in the pool with all this like body stuff hooked up to him, like an EKG, who knows. But the pitching lab is what people love. You saw Roki Sasaki, his agent said Jeremy Hefner is a guy that they both like. They're interested in potentially working with him, which is a great sign. But at the same time, they also said, I mentioned on a few pods ago, Sasaki is not very good with the media. The Mets media is tough. He doesn't want to be playing in a big market. The Mets are a big market, especially now that Steve Cohen's the owner. He's going out there and handing out contracts like $300 million plus to Francisco Lindor, which now looks like a great contract, by the way. Juan Soto, $750 million deal with the potential to get up to $800 million. We're a big market team. Roki doesn't want to play for a big market team, but he does like Jeremy Hefner. So we got some pros and cons heading into those sweepstakes. That'll probably start in the middle of January with the international signing pool. And really every team, all 30 teams, are in on Roki Sasaki. But with Sean Manaea, he's going to get that big contract. He's going to get that big contract. We're hearing rumors right now from $70 to $100 million contract for Sean Manaea. And I think it makes perfect sense for the Mets to go out there and get him because Manaea, he reshapes the entire Mets rotation than what it is right now. Because if you got Kodai and you got Manaea and you got Peterson as your 3 front-end starters, that's pretty good. Granted, are any of them aces like a Garrett Cole, any of them aces like a Zach Wheeler? No. But at the same time, Kodai Senga, if he can make 28-plus starts, I'll take that because what Senga has showed me in his rookie year is that he can be a very good starter in this league. Maybe not an ace, but I think he can be an ace. I think he can develop into an ace because in his first year, 2.98 ERA with over 200 strikeouts in less than 200 innings. We'd like to see more innings, obviously, but we all know Japanese pitchers are used to that 6-man rotation, which a lot of teams are headed towards now. But I do like Senga at the front end of the rotation. I don't think we need a Corbin Burns. I don't think we needed a Blake Snell or a Max Fried. I just think those are risky. I like Senga as your 1. I like Peterson as your 2 or 3. You slide Manaea in that rotation. Those are 3 really good arms. Frankie Montas and Klay Holmes as your 4 and 5. You know what? Let's roll the dice with it and see what we can get. Because we saw what Jeremy Hefner did with Luis Severino. We saw what Hefner did with Sean Manaea. So I do like that. But the Mets still need pitching. And I think Sean Manaea is the perfect fit. Probably like a 3-4 year, maybe even 5-year deal. Who knows? But I want Manaea back on these Mets. In the playoffs, he was really money. Let's take a look at his playoffs numbers with the Mets this past postseason. ERA spiked up a little bit after that loss in Game 6 to the Dodgers. But he went 2-1 across 19 innings. Did allow 10 earned runs, but a majority of those did come against the Dodgers. He was lights out against the Phillies, lights out against the Brewers. He's proved to be a very good starter. And, you can look at his numbers overall in his career. His career numbers aren't that great. A flat 4 ERA, but still the win-loss column, you do like that. 77 wins, 62 losses across his entire career. I just think the Mets really need Manaea. Let me know in the comments what you guys think that are watching right now. Do you think the Mets could use an arm like Manaea? Because we saw last year what he did with the Mets. It was kind of like that Juan Soto, the case I was making for the Yankees to really go get Juan Soto, is because Juan Soto is a great fit with the Yankees. Why? Because we saw it last year. Why is Sean Manaea a great fit with the Mets? Because we saw it last year. So who knows what type of contract he's going to get. 181.2 innings this year. How many strikeouts? 184 strikeouts. Only 63 walks. Very good K to walks ratio. 9.1 strikeouts per 9. Only 3.1 walks per 9. So I do like that as well. But overall, the Mets need pitching. Mets need pitching. We can keep screaming and crying. Go get Pete Alonso. We want him back. Go get another bat in this lineup to really make it one of the best lineups in the National League. Because I talked about it before, with the way the Phillies look, even the Braves, the Dodgers especially, they have powerhouse lineups. That's why they're consistently in playoff contention. That's why consistently the Dodgers and Phillies have been winning their divisions and going far in the playoffs because they have stacked lineups. The Mets have the capability to put together a stacked lineup. Whether it's Bregman, whether it's Alonso, whether it's Walker, who I really want to stay away from, whether it's Teoscar Hernandez, who I think is going to be that dark horse free agent that's really going to prove to be one of the better free agents of this free agent class right now next season. I would love Hernandez on the Mets, especially defensively. He can play the outfield too very well. But overall, we just need pitching, man. We need pitching because, like I said, Senga and Peterson, I trust, but we're rolling the dice with Klay Holmes and Frankie Montas right now. We really are. But you look at their numbers overall. Shout out to Klay Holmes, by the way, getting introduced to the Mets today. He had a lot of great things to say. But you look at Klay Holmes' numbers. He's a ground ball pitcher. He's got 4 pitches, very good sinker, some good breaking stuff as well, a very good changeup. But a down year for him, similar like I was saying, Pete Alonso's down year was 34 home runs. Everyone's crapping on the Mets. Oh, well, you signed a guy who had the most blown saves, blah, blah, blah. What happened when he left that closer role? He's not a closer. Closers are supposed to throw hard. Closers are supposed to be like Devin Williams, Edwin Diaz. They're supposed to be hard flame throwing pitchers. Klay Holmes is not that guy. He's a ground ball pitcher. People put the ball in play against him. That's just a fact. But in 63 innings this year, 3.14 ERA. That's a bad year for Klay Holmes. Sign me up. Worst comes to worst, you move him to the bullpen, and we got a reliable bullpen arm as well. So I like the idea of rolling the dice with Klay Holmes as a starter, see what you can get, and then worst comes to worst, he's just a very high-paid reliever. And he's a good reliever. So overall, point is, we need pitching. Sean Manaea is still on the open market. Let's go see what he can do with the Mets in year 2 in Queens. I would love that if we can get him back. But right now, we're seeing a lot of rumors. We saw the Padres that are interested in Sean Manaea. It's really the Mets, Padres. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I've been seeing. So, but yeah, right now the Padres are linked to him as a $76 million pitcher. That's according to Sports Illustrated. Empire Sports Media, who they're not as known, but Empire Sports Media is still a site that I do like. Anthony Rivardo said Mets could hand out $100 million deal to one of their top free agent pitchers. And yeah, you know what? If it's $100 million, why not? Maybe 4 years, $100 million, $25 million each year, AAV. Maybe they split it up. Who knows? They split it up with Juan Soto. It's not necessarily $51 million every year. It's going to make 46 one year, then a lot of money the next year. So we'll see. But I think Sean Manaea makes perfect sense for the Mets. He's only going to be 33. Maybe you get him on a 4-year deal that takes you to age 37. I like that. You can get 2 really good years out of Manaea, and then screw what happens the next 2 years. He can be a 4, he can be a 5, or maybe he's still good. Because we see it. CC Sabathia at the tail end of his career. Clayton Kershaw even a few years ago at the tail end of his career right now. Justin Verlander put together some good starts a few years ago, the tail end of his career right now. There are certain pitchers that know how to just pitch, not necessarily just throw. Like DeGrom, he was a beast because he could throw. And that's why he's always getting hurt, because he's throwing. He's not necessarily pitching. Yes, he's a great pitcher. When healthy, I think he's the best pitcher in baseball, but he's not healthy a lot because he throws. Manaea, on the other hand, he's a pitcher. So go get me Manaea. He's seeking a multi-year contract. He did decline the Mets qualifying offer for $21.05 million. So, those other teams, if they do sign him, they lose that draft pick, whereas the Mets, they wouldn't lose that draft pick. But, I want him. His final 12 starts in 2024 had a 3.09 ERA. So, yeah, he pitched his sinker 43% of the time, average speed of like 92.3 miles per hour. So he's not necessarily a hard thrower, but, he can still get strikeouts. He's got a really good curve, He's got a really good sweeper, I think, as well. So I would love to have Manaea back in this rotation because, like I said, if your front three starters are Senga, Peterson, Manaea, roll the dice in the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes, then we got 4 really good starters, 4 really trustworthy starters. Then you got Montas and Klay Holmes, and that's a 6-man rotation right there. Kodai Senga would love that. If we do get Roki Sasaki, who loves Jeremy Hefner according to his agent, that's a good for him, 6-man rotation. But Sean Manaea, I think he's the missing piece in this rotation right now. Now, granted, we can get away with a rotation with necessarily no ace, even though, like I said before, I think Senga is a front-end starter, 2.98 ERA with over 200 Ks just 2 years ago. I have a feeling he's going to throw more than 5 innings in the regular season compared to last year. And then you could, crap on Senga all you want for in the NLCS, his bad outing, but against the Phillies, it was one bad pitch. One bad pitch against the Phillies. So that's my little Senga defense there. But like I said, you get Manaea, roll the dice on Roki. If you get him, great. If you don't, well, then you still got Manaea, Peterson, and Senga as your front 3. Roll the dice with Frankie Montas, see what we can get out of him. Same thing with Klay Holmes. And Jose Butto, I do like the idea of him in the bullpen, but if we need to use him as a starter, that's not bad as well because Jose Butto has proved that he can get outs in this league. He can get outs in this league. I would love to keep him in that bullpen and eventually elevate him to a starter role down the road. We got a lot of, I think, another 5 years of team control of Jose Butto. But Mets definitely have options. The offseason isn't over yet. Yes, our pitching rotation right now doesn't look the greatest, but we don't need the greatest pitching rotation, especially if we go out there and we add another bat to this lineup like Bregman, like Pete, like potentially Christian Walker, Teoscar Hernandez. There's still guys out there. So let's see what they can do and improve this rotation because they really do need to. But we can get away with a mid-tier rotation, I think, with the lineup that I think we're going to have in 2025. But let's talk about their next move after getting that pitcher. We're seeing the Pete Alonso market start to heat up a little bit. Yankees are interested. Mets are interested. Cubs, they're probably going to have some interest in Pete Alonso, especially now that Bellinger is gone. They probably want to replace him. Bellinger's a 1-year rental, so got to keep an eye out for that. Is he going to re-sign with the Yankees? I think he will. The Yankees can definitely afford him. Because we saw the Yankees, they were the second highest bidder in Juan Soto. The Yankees aren't afraid to spend money. In the past, like a few years ago, well, maybe you can make that case. Yankees are afraid to spend money. Like it's Hal Steinbrenner, isn't George Steinbrenner, but I think Bellinger will resign if he has a good year. But yeah, Mets still need, even after pitching, they need another bat. We got some first base depth. We got another bullpen arm this past week, but they still need that big bat to hit behind Soto, to hit behind a Vientos. Because right now it's Lindor, it's Vientos, and it's Soto. Probably Soto batting second, and Vientos or Nimmo batting third. Hopefully Alonso in the cleanup spot. But what I want to talk about is maybe Alonso and Bregman. Because we get Alonso and Bregman. Bregman can play second base, 1. So that's an elite infield. If your infield is Alonso, Bregman, Lindor, and freaking Mark Vientos, who had a great year, 27 home runs in just 110 games, went off in the playoffs. That's a really good infield. Then you got Soto and Nimmo in your outfield. Right there, that's 6 really good offensive hitters. Francisco Alvarez, let's see what we can get out of him. I mean, he had a down year for sure. Even in 2023, I mean, he had 25 home runs, but his batting average and on-base percentage were below 300. I know the batting average doesn't necessarily need to be above 300. I'm not expecting that. But the on-base percentage, I hope, goes above 300 this season. Like that, you need to get on base at least 30% of the time if you want to be dependable in a World Series contending lineup. But the fact of the matter is the Mets, they just need one more arm, I think, whether it's Walker Buehler, whether it's Sean Manaea, whether it's Roki Sasaki. I hope we're not dependent on Roki Sasaki. I really think we need a Buehler or a Sean Manaea. But the Mets need to make some moves because this offseason is not done yet. It's not done yet. But we need more pieces, especially if we want to get by the Dodgers, the Phillies, again, if we want to get by the Braves, because the Braves are still a good team. Like Padres even, they're a good team too. So they're still like the NL is much more competitive than the AL on paper, at least. Last year, we saw it in the playoffs. NL was much more competitive compared to the AL. But on paper, the way it looks right now, the NL is going to be stacked compared to the AL. But Walker Buehler is also another good option to add as a pitcher. I mean, he had a terrible year this year, but he was also coming off an injury. 1-6, 5.38 ERA. He did dominate the Mets in the postseason in the NLCS. But, I mean, this guy's a two-time World Series champion, a two-time All-Star. In 2021, he was 16-4 across 33 starts with a 2.47 ERA with 212 strikeouts. 2020, only 8 starts. Yes, shortened season, though. 3.44 ERA. 2019, he was an All-Star that season, went 14-4, 3.26 ERA across 182.1 innings of work with 215 strikeouts. So I do like the idea of also rolling the dice on a 2-year, 3-year deal with Walker Buehler. That's also another option. So I think the Mets, what they need to do, they need to get Manaea, they need to get Walker Buehler. Not both, just one of the two. Then you can have your rotation either be Senga, Buehler, Peterson as your front three, with Montas and Klay Holmes as your 4 and 5. And then you roll the dice with Roki, like I said before. Or it's Senga, Manaea, Peterson, 2 really good left-handers in that rotation. Then you got Montas and Klay Holmes, and then you roll the dice with Roki. So the Mets, the offseason's not over. Their pitching rotation is for sure not complete. Let's see what they can do. I think Sean Manaea will be more expensive than Walker Buehler, but at this point in both their careers, I do trust Sean Manaea a little bit more, even though Walker Buehler has put together phenomenal seasons. I mean, you look at Walker Buehler's stat page. I mean, this is a guy who's finished how many times in the top 10 for Cy Young? Finished 9th in Cy Young voting in 2019, 4th in Cy Young voting in 2021, which is realistically his last full year. So if he stays healthy, he is a great pitcher. So, and he could be a little cheaper. So I guess you can make the case for going after Walker Buehler if you want to save a little bit of money. Marcus is asking, how much money is Manaea asking for and how many years? Right now, no one really knows. But what I'm seeing right now, according to the internet, the internet is suggesting he's going to get anywhere between 70 and 100 million, 3 to 4 years. I don't think he's going to get a 5, 6, 7-year deal. I think it's going to be somewhere in that 3 to 4 range. I think the Mets can kind of battle with other teams and maybe give him a 3-4-year deal with higher AAV. I mean, we got the richest owner in baseball. Why not? But Manaea is a really good fit with the Mets. He's just a really good fit with the Mets. And how do I know? Because he was just on the Mets and he put together his best season. So, yeah, go get Sean Manaea or go get Walker Buehler. Roll the dice on Roki Sasaki, and let's see what we can make out of this rotation. And then you can always buy at the deadline. I hate saying this, but I expect the Mets to be in playoff contention come the deadline. I just expect them with the team they put together. When you have Lindor, when you have Vientos, when you have Soto and Nimmo, whatever happens with Pete Alonso, maybe you get Alex Bregman, maybe you get Teoscar Hernandez, which I haven't really seen the Mets interested on Teoscar Hernandez or Christian Walker or Anthony Santander. But they need pitching. They do need pitching. They don't need a Corbin Burns. They didn't need a Blake Snell or a Max Fried, but they do need pitching. And I know David Stearns doesn't like to give pitchers long-term deals, but if we can get away with 3 to 4 years, high AAV from Manaea, I'll take it. If we can give Walker Buehler high AAV across 2-3 years, I'll take it. Marcus said, made a joke on another stream. Maybe Stearns is distracted. Maybe he's helping Woody and the Jets find a president of football operations and GM. Steve Cohen should just buy the Jets. He should just buy the Jets, man. But the Jets, we're going to get into them in a little bit. I don't think they're in as bad as a shape as many people are making it out to be. You know, Rodgers is past 7 games, 13 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception. We're going to get into more of that later, but I don't think the Jets are necessarily dead in the water for 2025. I don't think they need to rebuild. They can kind of do both, I think, at the same time, which is risky. But, I mean, the Mets go out there, get another pitcher, get another bat in this lineup. I'd love to have Pete Alonso back. I mean, Pete Alonso, like I said before, a down year for him is 34 home runs. Most RBIs in baseball since he came in the league in 2019. Second most home runs, only behind Aaron Judge since 2019. Pete's a guy you want in your lineup. He's a guy you want in that lineup. Give him a chance to break the Mets home run record. Not only that, but if you have a lineup of Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Alonso, Nimmo, see what we can get out of Francisco Alvarez. Give him one more. I think if he doesn't perform well this year, come the trade deadline, he's either going to get traded or he's going to get sent down. because Francisco Alvarez he needs to produce more. You look at Francisco Alvarez's numbers. Yes, the pop was there in his rookie year. We all know he's got extreme power, but I'm hoping we can see a little bit more maturity out of Francisco Alvarez. I mean, we saw him throw the bat away in the playoffs again. He's only 23 years old. We do got to remember that. But this year, I mean, yes, he was hurt the majority of the season, but a 237 batting average, 11 home runs, that's not going to cut it. In 2023, across 123 games, 25 home runs, 209 batting average. And this is the worst part about Francisco Alvarez, the 284 on-base percentage. That is not good. It's not good. You need to get in that 315, 330 on-base percentage range if you want to be what we think he can be. I still have a lot of hope in him. I think his ceiling could really just, I don't know what his ceiling is. I really don't. I mean, this guy at one point was the number one prospect in baseball. He has a lot of potential, but we need to see more out of Francisco Alvarez. And that brings me to my next point. We need a backup catcher. We do need a backup catcher. Like, I get it. Who was the one guy? I forgot his name off the top of my head, but last year, we got a little bit out of him. Louis Torrens. We got a little bit out of him. 28 years old at a 229 batting average this season. But, I mean, overall, a 227 batting average career-wise. He is a veteran. He is very good defensively. But, a 665 OPS this year. That's not great. I don't want him as my backup catcher. I'd love to keep him. If worse comes to worse, yeah, you keep him. But I do think we need a little bit more depth in that catching position. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hop into the Yankees. Shout out Marcus. We love Carhartt, man. We do love Carhartt. Also rocking the Mets NLCS shirt today because I'm feeling Mets. I'm feeling Mets today. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hop into the Yankees, hop into some football, and then we're going to be talking some Knicks because Josh Hart's having a career year. McCall Bridges is really starting to heat up. OG Anunoby's having a career year. Cat's playing at an MVP level. And Brunson is still a top point guard in this league, man. Averaging 25 a game right now. He's going off. Most assists he's ever had in his entire career. He's playing great. Love to see that. So we'll take a quick break, hop into the Yankees, and then we'll get into some of the other sports in New York. All right, we'll be right back. One guy who's been last 80 games of 2023, 284 batting average, 15 home runs, 44 RBIs. If we get that Lindor for a full year. And now I'm not saying last year he didn't have a all year. Look at the numbers. Last year, 2023, Lindor was a top shortstop. He was an all MLB shortstop. 30-30. He was a beast. But in the last 80 games, the second half, that's when Lindor really turned it up. If we get that Lindor for a full season, the Mets are going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. And Lindor will be an MVP candidate. He has MVP potential. I've said it since the Mets have traded for him. Francisco Lindor has the talent, has the ability to win an MVP. He is that good. But he's inconsistent at times. I cannot ignore that. But over the last 80 games of 2023, he was pretty consistent. And he was probably the best. Second, or I would say second best, right after Corey Seager. But he was arguably the best shortstop in all of baseball the last 80 games. That's what Lindor can be. And if we get that for a full year, not only will he be an MVP candidate, but the Mets will be in the postseason. As it'll be a quick break. All right, let's get into some Yankees talk, man. Let's get into some Yankees talk. They go out there and they make a big move again. Since they lost Juan Soto, they've been making move after move after move. But what is their next move? They need more offense. Their pitching, I think, is phenomenal. I think they got one of the best pitching rotations heading into the season right now. When you got Garrett Cole and you got Max Fried as your front two, yes, there's some injury concerns. Garrett Cole coming off the injury, obviously missed a lot of time in 2024. Max Fried, through his 9-year career, has only started 30 times twice. So you definitely got to keep that in mind. But if they're healthy, you love that. Louis Hill coming off a phenomenal year where he won the AL Rookie of the Year, was great in the first half, had some command issues in the second half that kind of deteriorated his numbers. But other than that, Louis Hill is a reliable option. I think he can only get better from here. So you got 3 really good starters at your front 3. Clark Schmidt, still a very good starter when he's healthy. He's not one of the best, obviously, but he's still a very dependable starter. And then, Nestor Cortez is gone, but you still got Marcus Stroman flying out there too. So Yankees still have a very good rotation heading into the season. So I think they're done with the pitcher moves. They go out there and they get Devin Williams to replace Klay Holmes in that bullpen, which I think is a very big upgrade. Devin Williams is phenomenal. He was the best closer in baseball last year, arguably. I think he was. Not arguably, he was. That's saying something because there was a lot of good arms out there last year in the bullpen for a lot of teams. But they need another bat in the lineup. Cody Bellinger is great, though. Cody Bellinger, I do like the idea of the Yankees going out there and getting him. They can move Aaron Judge back to right or left field, whatever one you want. But they go out there, they get the 29-year-old former MVP. This past season, a little bit less production than he had in 2023, but in 2024, he still had a very good year. 751 OPS, 266 batting average with 18 home runs in just 130 games. But you got to keep that in mind, too. He's a guy who kind of injury prone. His numbers in the playoffs aren't that great either. Through 6 playoff appearances, 211 batting average. He has the 3rd highest strikeout rate among batters that have 200 at-bats in the playoffs. Aaron Judge is actually number 1. But then again, in 2021, he had a very good postseason with the Dodgers. 353 batting average, 906 OPS with home run and 7 RBIs. In 2020, yes, he didn't do great in the playoffs. The 212 batting average is definitely not, appealing, but still had a 770 OPS, 14 hits across 18 games, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs. So he's not just a dud in the playoffs. He's not. Aaron Judge, yes, you can say he's a dud in the playoffs, but eventually Aaron Judge is going to click in the playoffs. But the Yankees right now, they're putting together a very good team right now. They're using the money that they wanted to pay Juan Soto, and they're going out there and they're getting other guys to fill. You got to love that Devin Williams move. You got to like the Max Fried move. I get it. 8 years is a lot of time. It's going to take him into his age 38 or 39 season. Like I said before, he's a guy who's gotten injured a lot in the past as well. He's only started 30 times twice in his career. But at the same time, you don't care about that. You're trying to win now. Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge, they're not getting any younger. You want to put a ring on their finger too. They want to become all-time Yankees. Aaron Judge, he's in his prime for a little bit more, I think, probably 2-3 really good years out of Aaron Judge. But then he might start to die off. Who knows? He is getting up there in age. Same thing with Garrett Cole. We're seeing the injuries start to spar up with him as well. But then again, I do like Max Fried. I do like Garrett Cole. I have a hard time seeing one out of just both of them getting hurt for a significant amount of time. Knock on wood that doesn't happen, even though I'm anti-Yankees. But, I like what the Yankees are doing. They're prioritizing pitching and defense. Bellinger is a great glove, whether you put him at first, whether you put him in the outfield and center. And I think he's going to be playing center, so you can move Judge out of center field. But they do need another outfielder, potentially a 3rd or 2nd baseman, depending on where they want to put Jazz. And first base is still open as well. So we got to see what they're going to do with those spots. But I think if they add another really good bat, potentially let's take a look at some of the options. Jerickson Profar comes to mind. This past season in 2024, he hit 24 home runs, on-base percentage of .380 across his last 3 years. His on-base percentage has been .344, so that's very intriguing. He's a guy who gets on base a lot. He's got pop in his bat. And his batting average this past year was really good, one of the best he's ever had in his career. He hit .243 in 2022, .242 in 2023, but .280 in 2024. So Jerickson Profar is definitely an option that I think could be a cheap route for the Yankees. Some other more expensive free agents that they can go get. Tyler O'Neill comes to mind. Tyler O'Neill had a great year, 31 home runs this past season, .511 slugging percentage, on base percentage of .336, which put him at an OPS of, where's his OPS? I got to do math there. .336 plus .511. Let's see. I'm going to have to use a calculator for that one. I wasn't a math major. .847 OPS. That's really good, actually. Batting average, not so great, .241, but when you're hitting 31 bombs, that is really good. And his launch angle really skyrocketed this past season. Over the past 3 seasons, he has an average launch angle of 16.3. In 2024, he had a launch angle of 20.3. So you got to like that. Teoscar Hernandez, probably a little bit more expensive than Tyler O'Neill, but a really great option. Like I said before, I think he's going to be the dark horse free agent to whatever team he goes to. Coming off really 4 consecutive great years, because in 2021, he was really good with the Toronto Blue Jays. He had them 1 win away from the postseason, right behind the Dodgers and the Yankees, who both had 91 and 92 win seasons. So, I mean, yes, Vladdy played a big role in that season as well, but Teoscar Hernandez was not a dud for the Blue Jays in 2021 for sure. This past season, he had a great year with the Dodgers, hit 272, on base percentage of 339, slugging percentage of 501, puts him at a OPS of, let's see if I'm doing my math right, 501, 339, that's really easy. 840 OPS, math major right there, huh? But past 3 seasons, home run average has been 28, 25 in 2022, 26 in 2023, and this past year, 33 home runs with the Dodgers. And that on-base percentage, really good, 339, and that slugging percentage of 501. That's what grabs the eye there. But Teoscar Hernandez, I think that would be a great option. If you have an outfield of Hernandez, Judge, and Cody Bellinger, that's really 3 really good offensive bats, 3 pretty good outfielders as well. Bellinger can play center. Judge, he can play really anywhere in the outfield. So I like those 3 outfielders. I think Teoscar Hernandez is the best option. But then again, there's still some other options. Anthony Santander, he's another option. He's coming off a great year where he hit 44 home runs, batting average not so high, 235. But then again, when you're hitting 44 home runs and driving in 102 runs, you don't care what that batting average is. On base percentage, you'd like to see that increase a little bit more. But then again, if he's hitting in the same lineup as Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and Cody Bellinger, I have a hard time seeing him have an on-base percentage of 308 like he did in 2024. 814 OPS this past season. He's had a career high in home runs, like I said before, 44 home runs, hit 28 in 2023, hit 33 in 2022. So yeah, I mean, Anthony Santander, he's also like a dark horse free agent, got a lot of pop. And if you put him in that, like I said before, you put him in a lineup with Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger, and Giancarlo Stanton, I have a hard time seeing that on-base percentage not increase for 2025. So I think the Yankees could go out there and still get Santander. We saw it earlier today, even after they got Bellinger, they're still interested in Anthony Santander. So right now, that's Tyler O'Neill, Teoscar Hernandez, and Anthony Santander still available. But outside of the outfielders, I mean, you want to go out there and get a third baseman, move Jazz back to his natural position at second base. Alex Bregman coming off a great year in the second half, kind of struggled in the first half a little bit, but a down year for him is a 260 batting average with 26 home runs. So down year for him is that. You'll take that. He's only 30 years old right now, so probably he is not the youngest out of all of them. Tyler O'Neill is actually the youngest out of all of them. He's only 29 right now. He'll be turning 30 in the regular season of next year. But, I mean, Bregman, man, career 272 hitter. He averages 28 home runs a year. I mean, that's a guy you want in your lineup. 25 home runs in 2023 with a 262 batting average and 804 OPS. 2022, 820 OPS with 23 home runs. And then 2019, I get it. Maybe you want to say they were cheating and the juice ball was there. But he led the league in walks with 119, had 41 home runs to go with a 1.015 OPS, finished second in MVP voting that year. And then in 2018, I know we're going far back, but I mean, he's in the prime of his career right now. We see the prime for MLB players, at least on the offensive end, is usually like 27, 28, all the way up until 33, I would say is the prime years for a baseball player. But led the league in doubles in 2018 with 51, OPS of 926, batting average of 286 with 31 home runs. That was his career high. And then, playing in Yankee Stadium, he's got that oppo power too. He can drive the ball really anywhere across the yard. So I think Bregman would do very well. He'd be a great fit with the Yankees. You still need an outfielder. Even if you do get Bregman, they could probably get away with getting like a very good defensive outfielder, kind of similar to the Mets where they have Jose Siri lined up and Tyrone Taylor, two great defensive center fielders to go along with Brandon Nimmo and Juan Soto, who you're expecting a little bit more out of on the offensive end than those two, especially Soto. But I think if they get Bregman, then they kind of have to go the cheaper route in the outfield, maybe get a very good defensive right fielder or left fielder, depending on where you want to put Aaron Judge. I think right field makes the most sense. Kind of give him a little bit of a less workload so he can really produce, because he really needs to be the guy now without Juan Soto. But then again, if you turn losing Juan Soto into Alex Bregman and Cody Bellinger, that's really good. That is really good. Bellinger, obviously only a 1-year rental as of right now, but his dad was a Yankee. He's talked glowingly about how he hates the Astros, so he's a great fit with the Yankees already right there. But then again, you also got to think, you bring Bregman in, Is there going to be? I don't think there's going to be beef. You can put it behind you. If you're trying to win, you could put whatever differences you have aside. Speaking of differences aside, I'm just going to bring it up once. I don't think it's that big of a deal because the NBA, we see it all the time. But Cody Bellinger's current wife is Giancarlo Stanton's ex. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Like I said, it happens in the NBA all the time. They're professionals. I think people are kind of pushing it just to be trolls. But I just wanted to mention that. But Bregman, two-time All-Star, two-time World Series winner, Gold Glove winner, too, at that third base spot. You can move Jazz back to second. You got an infield of Jazz at second, short Anthony Volpe, that's really good up the middle, and then Bregman, Gold Glove defender at third, Bellinger in center, Aaron Judge in probably right, and we all know he's a great glove. Bellinger's also a great glove. First base, you kind of have some options there. If you want to go the defensive route, similar to why I think they should go out there and get a defensive left fielder, you could get away with that for sure, especially with the rotation that they have, especially with the bullpen they're now building now that they add Devin Williams to that mix as well. I would say they also need another bullpen arm too. There's still some bullpen arms out there. Let's take a look at some of the top ones. Some of the relief pitcher free agents. Let's see. The Yankees actually had some free agents themselves that they did lose. Obviously, Klay Holmes comes to mind, but Tanner Scott's still available. Luke Weaver. He's still in that bullpen, so you got to like that. You got Devin Williams and Luke Weaver there. We saw Luke Weaver have a phenomenal postseason. But Tanner Scott's still out there. I believe Jeff Hoffman is still out there as well, unless I'm mistaken. Yep, Jeff Hoffman's still out there, and Jeff Hoffman could be a great option. A 2.17 ERA this past year in 68 games. So Jeff Hoffman could be a guy that the Yankees go get to improve that bullpen even more. If you got Luke Weaver, Jeff Hoffman, and Devin Williams in that bullpen, and then Tanner Scott, Tanner Scott is, if you're not saying Devin Williams is the best relief pitcher, you got to say that Tanner Scott is one of the best ones. This past season, 1.77 ERA, 84 strikeouts across against 72 games. So he'd be a lot of money, but the Yankees have money to spend after losing out on Juan Soto. And if you really want to shore up that bullpen, you really want to have the best pitching staff starting and bullpen wise, you go out there and you get a Tanner Scott or a Jeff Hoffman. And then you have Luke Weaver, Tanner Scott or Jeff Hoffman, and Devin Williams as your 7, 8, 9. I think any Yankee fan would sign up for that. But they still need offense, like I said before. Whether it's Bregman, I think that would be a very good option. Maybe they can get Bregman and Christian Walker. Maybe they can get Christian Walker and a Jerickson Profar or Teoscar Hernandez. I still think no matter what bat they sign, they can still be in on Christian Walker. And they're also in on Pete Alonso reportedly too. I know many Yankee fans are saying, oh, Pete Alonso's cringy. I don't want him. He humps the dugout and he deadlifts during the home run derby. Blah, 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 blah. If you put Pete Alonso in the same lineup as Aaron Judge, I would hate to see it. I would hate to see it. Why? Because I think he would thrive. I think he would thrive with the Yankees. I really do. I think his best fit right now, Pete Alonso, in my opinion, is the Mets or the Yankees. Because you can either have protection of Juan Soto, Lindor, Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo, or you can go to the Bronx and you can have protection of Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Jazz Chisholm Jr., and now Cody Bellinger. So, as much as Yankee fans hate to hear it, I think and as much as I hate to hear it, as much as really New York baseball fans hate to hear it, Pete Alonso is a good fit with the Yankees. So, definitely got to keep an eye on that. I hope they don't snipe him, but I really hope they don't snipe him. But the Yankees have options. Like I said, Teoscar Hernandez, they can go after Tyler O'Neill, Jerickson Profar, Anthony Santander, Alex Bregman, Christian Walker. There's still really good offensive bats out there. No, they're not Juan Soto, but Alex Bregman's still a two-time All-Star, still a Gold Glove winner, still finishing second in MVP voting just a few years ago. Like Tyler O'Neill, he's coming off a great year, over 31 home runs. You look at his career numbers, he had 34 home runs back in 2021 with a 286 batting average with an OPS of 912. Jerickson Profar coming off a career year. I don't think he's more dependable than the other guys, but he definitely come for cheaper. Teoscar Hernandez, great year, 33 home runs, 272 batting average. In 2023, he hit 26 home runs with 93 RBIs. 2022, hit 25 home runs with 77 RBIs. 2021, he really excelled. 32 home runs with his career high, 116 RBIs. And a lifetime 263 hitter, lifetime 808 OPS. You got to like Teoscar Hernandez a lot as an option for the Yankees. But I think the best fit, in my opinion, for the Yankees probably be Tyler O'Neill and Christian Walker. I think it would be Tyler O'Neill and Pete Alonso, but I don't think they can afford that. That'd be a lot of money to spend with a lot of, Stanton, Judge, Alonso. Those are guys who love to hit the long ball. Judge a little bit more higher batting average, but he still strikes out a lot. So I think they should go out there and maybe get Tyler O'Neill, and I think maybe Christian Walker as well. You look at Christian Walker's career numbers, they're not as intriguing as some of the other free agent options, but he's still coming off a great year at 25 home runs, 251 batting average, 803 OPS, 2023, 830 OPS, along with 33 home runs, 103 RBIs, 36 home runs in 2022 with Arizona with 94 RBIs and an OPS of 804. And really, that's when he started to elevate his play. 2019, he did have a good year, 29 home runs. So really, since 2019, Christian Walker has been very dependable. But then again, he'll be 34 next season. He's 33 right now. He'll turn 34 sometime in the regular season next year. But, that's why I like Tyler O'Neill. He's only 29. He's in the prime of his career, whereas Christian Walker is kind of getting out of the prime years of his career. But still a good option because they do need a first baseman for sure. But they can always put Cody Bellinger at first base and maybe go out there and sign 2 outfielders. And then you just got to worry about second base. Who knows? Yankees definitely have options, just like the Mets still have options. The offseason is not over. The teams that both of them have right now are not going to roll out onto the field. There's still a lot of offseason left. We're only in mid-December. There's still January and February and even March for some guys like Blake Snell last year and JD Martinez. So let's see what the Yankees do. Let's see what the Mets do. Hopefully we get a Pete Alonso notification going to the Mets at some point this week. Maybe even Sean Manaea. And hopefully for the Yankees' sake, hopefully they get another bat. Because, as great as Bellinger is, as great as Stanton is in the playoffs, as great as Aaron Judge is in the regular season, they still need another bat, in my opinion. All right, let's hop into the football. We'll start off with the Jets, and then we'll get into the Giants. Should the Jets bring back Aaron Rodgers? It's definitely something I think they should do, especially after these past few games. I don't think the offense is necessarily the problem. These past 7 weeks, Aaron Rodgers has 13 passing touchdowns to go along with 1 interception, averaging just about over 227 yards per game in this stretch that he's having. I mean, he's putting up 20 points per game. He's got that connection with Devontae Adams rolling. He's got a great connection with Garrett Wilson going. I think the Jets would be foolish to just let him go. They're going to take a $49 million cap hit if they let him go. If they keep him, it's a $60 million cap hit. So $11 million more to have Aaron Rodgers potentially give you the season that we've all wanted since we've got him. I mean, we have talent. Devontae Adams is still going to be under contract. Garrett Wilson is still going to be under contract. Breece Hall is obviously still under contract. You retool that offensive line. You bring in the right head coach, improve the defense to make it more dependable. I think we could actually go to the postseason with Aaron Rodgers under center. They always say third time's the charm. Maybe it is for the Jets. And even if they do run it back with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, all these weapons, I'm probably going to get rid of Allen Lazard. But, so be it. He is what he is. But rebuilding next season will be tough with the talent that they do have. And they can still go out there and draft a QB in the top 10, whether it's Jalen Milroe, whether it's Dillon Gabriel. Those are really the only 2 options I think the Jets will have at that point in the draft. Jalen Milroe, I think, could slide up. Dillon Gabriel hopefully slides down. I'm very high on both those guys. I like Jalen Milroe a little bit more because I think the Jets could eventually use just an athlete. We see it all around the league now. Pat Mahomes, what is he? He's not only a quarterback. He's not only a great pass thrower. He's an athlete. Lamar Jackson, what is he? He's really a great pass thrower now, but he's also an athlete. Josh Allen, he's an athlete. Say what you want about Trevor Lawrence. He's an athlete. Kyler Murray, athlete. Jalen Hurts, athlete. You need an athlete. That's what you need. You just need an athletic guy. You obviously need the right head coach. But if we get a Jalen Milroe or Dillon Gabriel, who are both athletes, I'd love that. Now, I'd like them to sit. I don't want to throw them under the fire like we did with Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold. I think that'd be stupid for the Jets. That's why I'm saying Aaron Rodgers. $11 million more to keep him. That's it. It's like, oh, we're going to save a bunch of money if we cut Aaron Rodgers and cut ties with him. No, we're not. Still going to be a $49 million dead cap hit without Aaron Rodgers. So do you want to do Jets fans really want to sit through another year of a losing season with a rookie quarterback? Or do they want to have a rookie quarterback that they can draft in the top 10 right now? They're projected to have that 8th pick overall. Or do they want to get that rookie quarterback and run it back one more time with Aaron Rodgers? Because worse comes to worse, and you run it back with Aaron Rodgers and you get that QB you want in the draft. Worse comes to worse. What? We have another year like this? I mean, we've seen enough terrible season after terrible season after terrible season. The Jets haven't had a winning season since Ryan Fitzpatrick was the signal caller. We want to win. At least that's what I want to do. I want to win. I don't want to watch another year of misery. What do we have to lose by bringing Aaron Rodgers back? $11 million? Really? $49 million dead cap hit if we cut him. I think that'd be stupid for the Jets to do. I mean, the Jets, they're probably going to be selected in the top 10. But I mean, like I said, I don't think he's played as poorly as people think. Right now, he's got 3,255 passing yards, 23 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and only 1 interception in his past 7 games. He has a chance to break the Joe Namath passing yard record with 4,007 if he can average over 250 a game, maybe even 240, I think it is. Ryan Fitzpatrick holds a single-season record for 31 passing touchdowns. Right now, he's at 23, 11 more over the next 4 games. Definitely doable. So Rodgers is having one of the best years as a Jets quarterback. And we're going to blame him? I mean, because realistically, in the beginning of the year, a few made field goals from Greg the Leg. Jets have a winning record. Maybe they don't fire Saleh. Maybe they still have one of the best defenses with Robert Saleh. But we're having Jeff Ulbrich as our head coach right now. Do you think Jeff Ulbrich was going to take this team to the playoffs? Do we really think Jeff Ulbrich was going to be a playoff head coach? Like, do we really think that? You go out there, and if the head coach is Mike Vrabel and he says, I want Aaron Rodgers back, I want Aaron Rodgers back. If it's really anybody, I like the idea of Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores could be a great option for the Jets. A lot of people are high on Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. I'm not that high on him. Yes, he's a great offensive mind, but we're seeing Mike McDaniel kind of now, the great offensive mind. Mike McDaniel had a few good years, but he also had Tyreek Hill. He had you can say what you want about him. He's a dependable quarterback, in my opinion. Like, they had talent. Same thing with the Detroit Lions. Is it Ben Johnson? Yeah, it is Ben Johnson. He's calling a great offense. But they also have David Montgomery. They got Jahmyr Gibbs. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got Jared Goff. They got one of the best offensive lines in football. They have a great defense on the other side. Like, it's not just all Ben Johnson. Now, trust me, I'd be all in if we get Ben Johnson, because we do have a lot of weapons on the offensive end. If he wanted to keep Aaron Rodgers, he wanted to keep Devontae Adams. You have Adams. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Breece Hall. Those three are just you got to win with those weapons. You got to win with those weapons, man. Braylon Allen, still a very good running back. Isaiah Davis, when Breece Hall was out, he kind of showed us something a little bit. It's really just the offensive line and the defense, in my opinion, and the coaching. So you fix those 3 things. You get the right head coach. You actually build up this offensive line. We still got 2 very good, 3, I would say, with Olu, AVT, and Joe Tippmann. I think those are 3 good offensive linemen. Get some depth. Get another guard. Get another right tackle. I think we can run this thing back. Add some defensive depth, because we saw that was really the key for the Jets 2 years ago when they had the best defense in football. They had depth. So I think the Jets should run it back with Aaron Rodgers one more time. Give it a shot. Let's talk about the draft a little bit, though. Right now, they got the 8th overall pick. If the season ended today, I think we're going to get a top 10 pick, but I think we might win just one more game to slide us right out of the top 10. So I really don't know. I think we'll get a top 12 pick for sure. I could see them somehow beating the LA Rams this week. Because Aaron Rodgers has been playing great. He's been playing great. Aaron Rodgers he just wants to prove, I want one more shot. Aaron Rodgers does not want to end on this note. And quite frankly, I don't want the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, little tenure to end on this note either. Run it back, see what we can get. We got Devontae, we got Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Garrett Wilson, Malachi Corey, even though he's been hurt a lot. See what we can do, man. See what we can do. Retool that defense, retool the offensive line, bring in the right head coach, and run it back one more time. And you can still go out there and potentially get a Jalen Milroe or a Dillon Gabriel. But let's talk about those quarterbacks right now, because I think the Jets could very well end up with Jalen Milroe or Dillon Gabriel. A lot of people are not that high on Dillon Gabriel. I think he'll definitely be available, whether we have 12th, 8th, 10th, 9th, whatever. Didn't want to put it in numeric order there, but Jalen Milroe is somebody I'd love to have. Like I said before, I want an athlete. Jalen Milroe is an athlete. So is Dillon Gabriel, but Jalen Milroe, I mean, man, he's an athlete. Passing this year with Alabama. 2 years ago, he had 23 touchdowns with 6 interceptions, 65.8 completion percentage, 2,834 yards passing-wise. This year, finished the year, his 12-game year. Still got the college. Well, he's not in the college football playoff, actually. But still got a bowl game left. But finishing the year with at least 15 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 2,652 passing yards. But you look at the rushing stats, they're just insane. 2023 had 531 rushing yards with 12 rushing touchdowns. Really stepped it up in 2024, 719 rushing yards and 20 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Milroe is just an athlete. I think, from what a lot of guys around the league, we saw Josh Allen improve his passing game. We saw Lamar Jackson improve his passing game. Like, those are two guys that come out to mind. I'm not comparing him to either of those two guys. I think he's a very different player. I mean, yes, I would say he's faster than Josh Allen. He's got better rushing ability than Josh Allen, and that's saying something because Josh Allen is one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the league. And Lamar Jackson, he's definitely not better rushing-wise than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is just, he can do it all. He can really do it all. But you need an athlete. Like I said, Pat Mahomes, he's an athlete. Trevor Lawrence, like him or hate him, he's an athlete. Jalen Hurts, he's an athlete. Even Brock Purdy, he's an athlete too. So that's another thing. People are hating on Brock Purdy after one bad game of the pouring rain. Oh, well, Brock Purdy, he's not a good quarterback. So when he comes back from his injury, I hope he balls out, and I hope he shuts everybody up because I like Brock Purdy, man. He's a good QB. Last year, he threw for over 4,000 yards, man. Over 30 passing touchdowns. Went 12-4 with the Niners. He's all like in that rain game. It was pouring. He's missing C-Mac. Obviously, he's missing Brandon Ayuk all year. Deebo Samuel was hurt for a little bit this year. 49ers have just been hit. Like, when you say, I'm not going to curse. The only time I curse on this podcast is when Aaron Rodgers makes me want to curse. Aaron Rodgers has not made me want to curse today. He's been playing great. But Purdy, say what you want about him, but poop has hit the fan. Poop has hit the fan in San Francisco. But the Jets need to hold on to Aaron Rodgers. Drafted Jalen Milroe. Drafted Dillon Gabriel. Just went over Jalen Milroe's numbers. Let's go over Dillon Gabriel, his numbers with the undefeated, the number 1 ranked team in college football right now, the 12-0. Or, well, 13-0 actually now. This year he's been playing out of his mind. 73.2 completion percentage, 3,558 passing yards, 28 passing touchdowns. Last year he had 3,660 passing yards, 69.3 completion percentage, 30 passing touchdowns, and back-to-back years, even in 2022, 6 interceptions. 2023, 6 interceptions. 2024, 6 interceptions. He's never had more than 8 interceptions in 5 of his years. Well, 6 of his years, actually. Which is another thing I also like about Dillon Gabriel. I mean, we see Bo Nix right now. He spent a lot of time in college. And he's an NFL quarterback. He's an NFL quarterback. Like, yeah, Sam Darnold only played 2 years with USC. Got thrown under the fire. He was not ready. Dillon Gabriel will be ready. Jalen Milroe will be ready when their number's called. I don't think it's like a few years ago when it was 2 and done. That's just what I want to say there. But Dillon Gabriel is definitely a good option. I would much rather have Jalen Milroe, like I said, with the Russian. But Dillon Gabriel's an athlete too. He can run a little bit too. 192 rushing yards this year. Obviously not as much as 717 like Jalen Milroe. 7 rushing touchdowns. Obviously not as much as 20 rushing touchdowns like Jalen Milroe. But he can still move around. He can make throws on the run. 373 rushing yards last year with 12 rushing touchdowns last year for Oklahoma. But this guy's leading an undefeated team right now, the number 1 team in college football. Say what you want about him. Yes, he's small. I get it. But we even see small quarterbacks kind of produce, similar to like how I said, we want an athlete like Jalen Milroe because Mahomes, like Josh Allen, like Lamar, like even Joe Burrow is an athlete, Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray. Like there's a lot of athletes out there. That's why I want Jalen Milroe. But Dillon Gabriel is still an athlete, doesn't turn the ball over. Yes, he's small, but look at some of the guys who are very accurate and that are small and that don't turn the ball over. Baker Mayfield comes to mind. Jalen Hurts comes to mind. CJ Stroud even comes to mind. He's not as big as many people think. Like those are 3 guys who are small quarterbacks that are still finding success. Why? Because they don't make stupid throws. They don't turn the ball over, and they're accurate. That's what Dillon Gabriel is. If I had to compare him to anybody, I compare him to one of those 3 guys, Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, or Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray is also another small quarterback that, he's had a tough year in the past few years, but he's having a pretty good year this year. So Dillon Gabriel and Jalen Milroe are the 2 guys that I would want if I'm the Jets. But let's flip it to the Giants. They're going to draft Shedeur Sanders, playing a little catch on the streets of New York City with Malik Neighbors just last week. And we're going to talk about Daboll soon and his future with the Giants and Joe Shane's future with the Giants because we saw a crazy report earlier today from Schultz from The Score. He's a very reputable reporter. Love him or hate him, he's a good reporter. But Schultz, he broke some news earlier today that the Giants are actually interested in retaining Joe Shane and getting rid of Brian Daboll, which I think is just asinine. That's crazy. Brian Daboll. If I had to say one guy's the problem, I'd say it's Joe Shane with the roster that he's put together. Quite frankly, you say what you want about Daniel Jones. Oh, the Giants screwed him over. Oh, the Giants sucked. Either way, he still gave that guy a $160 million contract for 4 years. Obviously, these next 2 years, they have nothing really to do with that money. Not all of it's guaranteed, but he still handed him that contract. Whereas if he didn't, he could have drafted a QB, could have re-signed Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying Saquon would have the year he's having with the Eagles at all. No, I am not saying that. But Saquon was still having a lot of success with the Giants. And if you have a very good running back like Saquon Barkley with a young rookie quarterback, I think they could have found success with a young rookie quarterback. I do. And then obviously his draft picks on the offensive line have just not panned. Really, all of his draft picks have been terrible. All of them. Deonte Banks hasn't been the cornerback that we thought he could be. Evan Neal has sucked. Evan Neal has been terrible. Evan Neal has been probably one of the biggest busts. Kayvon Thibodeau, love him or hate him. He has some great games, but he also has some terrible games. He's not the top defensive edge rusher that everybody thought he would be when he first got into the league. He's just not. So that's also on Joe Shane. So Joe Shane has just not been a good general manager. Oh, you go out there, you get Devin Singletary. Oh, he had the connection with the Bills organization a few years ago when Shane and Daboll were there. He's sucked. He sucked. I'd say his best draft pick so far, probably Tyrone Tracy. That's it. No shade on Tyrone Tracy. I don't think he's a bad, I'm not saying his best pick is Tyrone Tracy and that's a bad thing. It's not. Tyrone Tracy's a good running back. He fumbles a lot. That's something that's fixable. It's definitely something that's fixable. So I think with the Giants, do you want Joe Shane drafting another? You want him having another draft? I know it's hard to hire a GM and just expect him to retain to Brian Daboll, but I think Brian Daboll can still be a good head coach. I do. He took a not very talented team to the postseason in his first year. And then he had a terrible team last year. Quite frankly, he's had a terrible team this year. Yes, defensively, I was even bragging about the Giants saying, oh, with Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Azeez Ojulari, Bobby Okereke. Maybe you get a little something out of Deonte Banks in year 2. I mean, and then again, the defense last year, I mean, you got to make a case. You hold on to Jordan, what's his name? Love. Not Jordan Love of the Packers, but something Love. Julian Love. He's having a great year right now. Xavier McKinney's having a great year right now. He let those 2 guys walk, which I think was stupid of him to do. The defensive depth is just not there. If one of those guys on the line go down, they're screwed. They're screwed. So I think Joe Schoen deserves a lot more blame than Brian Daboll. And Brian Daboll definitely does deserve a lot of blame. But I don't think they should necessarily just fire Brian Daboll after 3 years. I mean, the Giants have been through the head coaching carousel for way too long. Ever since Tom Coughlin left this organization, head coach after head coach after head coach after head coach. We got Pat Shurmur. We got Joe Judge. They were terrible. Ben McAdoo, terrible. Brian Daboll is not Ben McAdoo. Brian Daboll is not Pat Shurmur. Brian Daboll is not Joe Judge. Brian Daboll, I think, can be a good head coach, but it also depends on what his general manager gives him. So if you drop one of those guys and it's Brian Daboll and not Joe Schoen, I think Sean Manaea is just dumb. I think we can really say if he really lets go of Brian Daboll and not Joe Schoen, if he lets go of both, fine. If he lets go of Joe Schoen and not Brian Daboll, he is the dumbest owner in the NFL. And that's saying something because Woody Johnson owns this team. And Woody Johnson is a very dumb owner. But John Mara has proven to be one of the dumbest owners in all of pro sports. He's dumb. But I think the Giants should go out there and get Shedeur Sanders no matter who their GM is, no matter who their head coach is. I think Shedeur Sanders will be the best fit. We see him. Obviously, Malik Neighbors likes him. Malik Neighbors apparently likes him. 22 years old right now, Shedeur Sanders. He's had a great year with the Colorado Buffaloes, with his dad head coaching that team, the legend Deion Sanders. 3,926 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. His rushing stats aren't that great, obviously. But, I mean, this guy can throw out of the pocket. He can throw on the run. He can throw under pressure. Last year with Colorado, 2023, he had 3,230 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Kind of like Dillon Gabriel, doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. In 2022, 70.6 completion percentage, 3,732 passing yards, 40 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And then his freshman year in 2021, 65.9 completion percentage, 3,231 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So year after year after year after year for Shedeur Sanders in college, he's been one of the best college quarterbacks. And it's not like, Sam Darnold, we saw him. He had really one good year with USC, and he got drafted 3rd overall. I think Shedeur Sanders is the safest of all the quarterbacks because, one, I would say his ceiling is the highest. I mean, the kid is huge, 6'2", 215 pounds. He can move. He's got a cannon for an arm. He can throw the deep ball. Probably one of the best deep ball throwers in college football, if not the best. I mean, I would give Shedeur a shot. I would really give him a shot. And, you say one about college football offenses. Oh, it's college football. They love to throw, but at the same time, they got a little NFL system going on over there. And it comes to no surprise considering their head coach is a former NFL player who played on both sides of the ball. And again, I keep saying, you want a QB who's an athlete. Shedeur Sanders is an athlete. He's an athlete. His brother's a great college player. His dad, obviously, NFL legend, played with the Yankees in the MLB and actually put up pretty good numbers in the MLB. It wasn't like Michael Jordan. He even had better baseball numbers than Bo Jackson. Like his whole entire family is just athletic. So I would say he's not the best athlete in the draft right now. I would say Jalen Milroe is the best athlete. But Shedeur Sanders is a better passer. You can definitely say he's a better passer than Jalen Milroe. You could definitely say that. If you don't think that, you're stupid. You're stupid. But Cam Ward, similar to Shedeur Sanders, cannon for an arm, having a great year as well in Miami. He's had 4,123 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Like Shedeur Sanders, one of the best, if not the best, deep throwers in college football. In 2023, 3,735 yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 2022, 3,231 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. 2021, Jesus, 4,648 passing yards, 47 passing touchdowns with 10 interceptions. And in 2020, his freshman year, 24 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, only 2,260 passing yards. And he can move. He can move. He's a little bit bigger than Shedeur Sanders. Weight rise, 223 pounds, same height though, 6'2". I mean, it's just, again, you wanted that athlete at quarterback, and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, they can throw the deep ball. Malik Neighbors, he wants a guy who can throw the deep ball. Daniel Jones just couldn't throw the deep ball. He was afraid to at times. Daniel Jones was, you saw it. He was afraid to throw that deep ball. He was afraid to take risk. Whereas these two guys are not afraid to take risk at all. At all. So I think Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders will definitely be on the Giants next year. No doubt about it. If they get that first overall pick, I think they roll with Shedeur Sanders. I think they do. But then again, they got to do a lot more than just draft a quarterback. Whereas the Jets, they can draft a quarterback and still bring back Aaron Rodgers and, shoot for the stars one more time. The Giants are in complete rebuild mode, so you really don't care what their win-loss record next year is. What your hope is, if you're a Giant fan, is get a little bit more offensive line depth to protect that rookie quarterback, and either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders just improves each game. And you hope Malik Neighbors, turns into a top 3 wide receiver, because I think he has that potential. And I'm very high on Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is a top, I'd say 10 wide receiver in the National Football League. Whereas Malik Neighbors, he's already top 10 right off the bat. Maybe even top 5 talent-wise. Probably, I would say talent-wise, he's top 3. The only 2 that I think come to mind better talent-wise, and maybe even not, but just saying something. It's a very hot take, but Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Malik Neighbors is up there talent-wise. And, I've been getting on him a lot this season. His post-game press conferences definitely aren't the best in the beginning of the year. But as each game went by, it seems like he's learning more and more, just to deal with it. Obviously he wants the ball. He wants to win. And it's definitely frustrating for a guy who won a lot at LSU. But at the same time, he's taking it good, especially now over these past few weeks. He just wants to see this team win. He obviously wants the ball in his hand, but he wants the ball in his hand because he can help his team win. We saw him play through an injury just a few weeks ago, and he said it after the game. Listen, you never play healthy in the NFL. You never play healthy at any level of football. You're going to be beat up. But if I can go out there and my body feels good, I want to go out there and I want to help my team win. Not a direct quote, but it's basically what he said. So I like Malik Neighbors. I think he's got a lot of talent. You get him a Shedeur Sanders, or you get him Cam Ward. I think you could roll the dice and get a lot out of Malik Neighbors. You definitely need more defense. Go out there, maybe get another edge rusher. Brian Burns is great, but Kayvon Thibodeau, he's got to prove a little bit more to me. Dexter Lawrence, obviously, he's one of the best defensive linemen in football. Azeez Ojulari, he's got a lot of injury history. Talent-wise, he's great, but injury-prone for sure. I like Bobby Okereke, but he's only getting older. Micah McFadden also he's got a pretty high upside. Not sky-high upside, but he's pretty good. And then hopefully, whoever they bring in, hopefully they hire the right defensive coordinator that can get Deonte Banks to where people thought he could be. Because Deonte Banks has talent. He does. He hasn't played great through his first 2 years so far, but he does have talent. But let's see what the Giants do. I think if they did bring back, this is again on Joe Shane, even with Daniel Jones, you bring back Julian Love, you bring back Xavier McKinney, you get some defensive depth out there, you get a good O-line, and not draft Evan Neal, and you actually build the right offensive line. I think the Giants could have made the playoffs this year. I really do think they could have. But as it looks right now, if Schultz is right, Joe Shane will be back, but Brian Daboll won't. And that's what would scare me if I was a Giants fan. That's what would really scare me. I mean, you can hire a GM and say, let's see what we can get out of Brian Daboll. You can let go of both. Both those avenues definitely make sense. I'd be opposed to kind of letting go of Brian Daboll, considering, like I said before, head coaching carousel since Tom Coughlin. You go through Pat Schumer, Ben McAdoo, Joe Judge. You really think Brian Daboll is one of those three guys? No, you don't. You just don't. But yeah, that's really all I got on the Giants. We're going to talk more about them after the game this week and the Jets. I think me and my brother are going this week to the Jets game, even though he's a Giant fan. He's hooking it up. He's got some sweet tickets somehow. So shout out to Kevy for that. But yeah, let's talk about the Knicks. And before we get into Cat playing at an MVP level and Jalen Brunson just being Jalen Brunson, I want to give Josh Hart. I've been giving him a lot of shout outs, but Josh Hart is having a career year. He is all over the court. Anytime he has a ball in his hands, he is pushing it. He is an elite rebounder, especially for his size. He's a great defender. And this year, his turnovers, like we've seen him have some stupid turnovers these past few years, but right now he's only averaging 1.8 turnovers per game. He's averaging his career high in points per game with 14.1. He's got 5.5 assists per game, 8.2 rebounds per game. And you look at his most recent games too. I mean, he's been all over. Against Orlando, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 of 9 shooting. That's another thing. He's making 59% of his field goals right now. He's shooting 40% from behind the arc. He's improved his shooting. For sure, he improved his offensive game. And that's where I really think we're seeing the click. Because we already knew he's a great defender. We already knew he's a great rebounder. But the offensive side of the ball, he's playing great. 21 points against Atlanta on December 11th in that loss, that tough loss. I really thought the Knicks could get that NBA Cup, but it is what it is. 21 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists on 8 of 12 shooting, 2 of 2 from the three-point arc. Against Toronto, only 10 points, but 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 of 9 shooting. Against Detroit on December 7th, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists on 7 of 11 shooting. Shout out 7-11. 18 points against Charlotte. 10 rebounds, 6 assists, had a triple-double against Orlando on December 3rd, 11, 13, and 10. And December 1st, 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists against the Pelicans. So Josh Hart in December has been playing phenomenal. He's having a career year. You got to love it. I mean, there's nobody that deserves it more. This guy works his tail off. He loves New Yorkers. He loves New York. He's a big Yankee fan, even though I hate that about him. But Josh Hart, man, he's been phenomenal this year. If he keeps it going, like I said on a few pods ago, as great as Cat is, as great as Brunson is, as great as Bridges and Anunoby is, I think the key for the Knicks this year is Josh Hart keeping this up. Because we all know what those other four can do. OG Anunoby, even if he's not scoring, he's a great defender. McCall Bridges, we already know what he can do. Jalen Brunson and Cat, obviously we all know they're playing an MVP caliber level right now. I don't think they're going to win the MVP, obviously. I mean, there's other guys, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, definitely a favorite to get another one. But, I mean, they're playing phenomenal this year. But Josh Hart, I think, is the key. Because if he plays this well as the season progresses, if he plays this well in the postseason when we get there, I think that's not the guy, obviously, but he's the glue. He's the glue of this team. McCall Bridges, man. I mean, everybody was freaking out. And even himself said, Josh Hart said, I mean, the guy just got here. You got to give him a little bit of time. But he's 28 years old, so he's still very young. Right now, he's averaging 17 points per game, 3.5 total rebounds, and 3.2 total assists. You take a look at McCall Bridges' stats and really his last, let's go last 15 games. We'll be generous. We won't go 20. But his last 15 games, 18 points per game. Shooting 36% from behind the arc. Shooting 58% from, is he shooting 58% from the field? No, he's not. Shooting 49% from the field. I mean, McCall's giving us what we asked for now. Did we really expect him to be a 20-point per game scorer? I mean, last year, in a full year with Brooklyn as the main option, he averaged just a little over 19 a game. His last 15 games with Cat, with Brunson, he's averaging 18. I think we're seeing the best of McCall Bridges. Maybe not even the best, but We're seeing a very good version of McCall Bridges, probably the best version of himself, I'd say, in his entire career. McCall Bridges is playing great. So if you want to hate on McCall Bridges, yeah, we gave up so many draft picks for him. I don't know why we did that. We did that because of this, because we wanted to win. What are you going to use those draft picks for? Frank Ntilikina? I mean, I know Leon Rose is obviously a better GM than anybody we had before, but he's not even a GM. Yeah, he's not even a GM, but he's definitely running the show. But Bridges is definitely on fire. Brunson's playing great too. Brunson has been playing phenomenal. I mean, you look at Brunson's number this year. I mean, the assist is definitely what pops out to me because we all knew he can put the ball in the basket. Last year, he averaged 28.7 points per game, but only 6.7 assists per game. This year, 25 points per game, 7.7 assists per game, shooting 49% from the field, shooting 43% from behind the arc. So Brunson with Cat is definitely a more efficient shooter. He's a more efficient point guard. I mean, we just saw the other night against Toronto, he had 11 assists. Against Detroit on December 7th, he had 10 assists. Even against Atlanta on December 11th, 8 assists, only 14 points, but 8 assists. He's still like that. So Brunson, he's just doing what Jalen Brunson does, what we all know and love him for. He can score when he needs to, but I think we're really seeing him elevate his game as a complete point guard now, and it definitely helps having a guy like Karl Anthony Towns playing at an MVP level. And I got to give it to him because, you know, when he was with Minnesota these past few years, he was getting a lot of shade thrown at him for not playing hard enough, for not crashing the boards enough, for being, how tall is he? A 7 foot, 248-pound guy. But, and again, he was always putting up great offensive numbers. But this year, 13.9 rebounds per game. His career high rebounds per game was in 2018 through the 2019 season with Minnesota, where he averaged 12.4 rebounds per game. He's now averaging 13.9, along with 24.8 points per game. Like, he's shooting 53% from the field, shooting 44% from three. I was talking about it a few weeks ago. I thought those numbers would go down, and they haven't. They haven't. And we're in mid-December now. Cat's playing out of his mind. 24 games this season, averaging 34.3 minutes per game. Knock on wood, but he's been healthy. He has been playing healthy, and you got to give a lot of credit to the Knicks trainers, the Knicks doctors. Knock on wood again, but OG Anunoby has been healthy, and Cat has been healthy, and those have been the two guys that we were worrying about heading into the season. Can they stay healthy? All, not necessarily 82 games, because we all know load management has definitely hit Tom Thibodeau in the head. We see Jalen Brunson not playing as many minutes in the fourth quarter as we usually needed him to play last year, and it definitely helps having Cat out there, McCall Bridges out there. But, I mean, man, you got to give it a lot of credit for what Cat is doing. He's now averaging a block per game. His most recent game, he scored 22 points, 22 rebounds against Orlando. 22 rebounds. That's insane, man. That's insane. With a +9 that night, too. Even against Atlanta, 19 and 19. Against Toronto, 24 points, 15 rebounds. Against Charlotte, 27 points, 16 rebounds. Against Orlando, 23 points, 15 rebounds. Against New Orleans, only 14 points, but 19 rebounds. I mean, in December, he hasn't had less than 15 rebounds in a single game. The only time he's had less than 15 rebounds since November 23rd was against the Charlotte Hornets on November 29th. He had 12 rebounds. This guy's playing out of his mind. He's playing out of his mind. You got to love it. But that'll do it for tonight. Definitely do it for tonight. We got the Timberwolves this Friday, man. That'll be a fun matchup. Right now, it looks like Julius Randle will be healthy to play that game. Dante DiVincenzo will be in that game as well. But it'll be a good opportunity to see who really, it matters who wins a championship to find out who wins that trade. But we'll find out a little early preview of who wins that trade. Because right now, it looks like we fleeced the Timberwolves. We gave up a pick, Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. Love him or hate him. I mean, even if you love him, you got to admit, Julius Randle was a head case. He was a head case. And he was definitely not near the player that Karl Anthony Towns is. And Dante DiVincenzo, I love him. He'll always hold a place in my heart, even though he had 1 year with the Knicks. His three-point shooting ability with the Knicks, just for that 1 year, making those big shots, averaging over 20 a game after he became a starter. Even in the playoffs, putting up 30 points in game sevens. You love Devo. But at the same time, that was probably the best season he'll ever had. So Leon Rose was a genius, realized that, and said, you know what, you want Devo? He's the guy you really want? Sure, take him. Why not? We don't care about Julius Randle. We're getting Cat in return. But if you really want Devo, take him. We'll see what we can get out of Miles McBride. And Miles McBride has been producing off the bench. I got to give him a little credit before we bounce out of here. McBride, 21 games, making a case that he's probably not going to win Sixth Man of the Year, but he's playing phenomenal. 25.2 minutes per game, 10.4 points per game. He's playing phenomenal. He is really playing phenomenal. So got to give McBride some credit too, and he's got that elite perimeter defense as well. So that'll do for all today. Moral of the story, Mets, go get Sean Manaea, get Pete Alonso, maybe get Roki Sasaki. Yankees, pretty good on pitching. They'll probably still be on Roki Sasaki. If they get Roki Sasaki somehow, because I think Roki could go to all 30 teams, considering he's going to be in the international pool. He's not going to get a contract like Yamamoto. He's not going to get a contract even like Senga got. He's going to be in that international pool. So all 30 teams are on him. If the Yankees somehow get Roki Sasaki, that rotation will be dangerous. I'll say that right now. But Yankees are making great moves, man. Cody Bellinger, you got to love that move. Max Fried, I know it's an 8-year contract, but you don't care what happens in 4 or 5 years. You don't. You want to win now with Aaron Judge. You want to win now with Garrett Cole. They're in the prime of their careers for not that much longer. You want to win. Go for it right now. Cody Bellinger, 1-year rental. I know the 1-year rentals obviously scare the Yankee fans now because they lost Juan Soto. But at the same time, you only gave up Cody Petit. Do you think Cody Petit's going to come in this league and become an all-star? If he does, shucks. But you got Cody Bellinger in return. I think they can go out there and re-sign Cody Bellinger. I think they should go out there and get Tyler O'Neill. And I think maybe they still have some room to get a Pete Alonso or a Christian Walker. So go get Tyler O'Neill if you're the Yankees. That's what I would do. Coming off a great year. Great player. Only 29 years old in the prime of his career. Maybe you go out there and you get Anthony Santander, who we saw the Yankees are reportedly interested in today. And then Jets and Giants, obviously. It's a poop show with them. Like I said, I'm not going to curse because Aaron Rodgers hasn't given me a reason to curse. And the only way, that's the rule of this podcast, the only time I will ever curse is when Aaron Rodgers makes me want to curse. And Aaron Rodgers has not made me want to curse. Last 7 games, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. He hasn't been the problem. I don't think he is the problem with the Jets. I think the problem is the head coaching because Jeff Ulbrich sucks. We shouldn't have expected him to take this team to the playoffs, even when they were 2-3 in week 5. When we really could have seen the Jets kind of fight their way back into things. Jeff Ulbrich just isn't that guy. So you get the right head coach, you retool the offensive line. You don't even need to do it that much. Just add depth. You got Joe Tippmann. You got Elijah Vera Tucker. You got Olu Fashanu. Like they got guys on the offensive line, but they still need a right tackle. They need a left guard or a right guard, wherever they want to put AVT. We see he can play left or right. He's just that good. But he also needs to stay healthy. So that's why I'm saying we need depth. Because if one of those guys do go down, you want depth. And then defensive side of the ball, same thing. You want depth. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with CJ Mosley. He's getting up there in age. But Sauce Gardner, he's been playing great. He was missing a lot of tackles in the beginning of the year, but he listened to all his haters, and he said, you know what? I'm still one of the top cornerbacks in the league. Came down with an interception this past week, his first of the year, finally. But he's not even a guy who's an interception guy. He's a guy who's just not going to let the receiver he's guarding catch the ball. That's what he's been. So if we can get that Sauce back, great. Bring back DJ Reed again. Let's run it back one more time. Giants, go draft Shedeur Sanders. Don't be stupid. If it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, as great as Cam Ward is, Shedeur Sanders for 4 straight years has been one of the top quarterbacks in college football. They'd be out of their mind not to draft Shedeur Sanders. They'd just be out of their mind. If you want Cam Ward, great. You can make that case. I'll have that conversation. But I think Shedeur is better than Cam Ward. I just do. And if they do fire Brian Daboll and hold on to Joe Shane, it will prove that John Mara is the worst owner in pro sports. And that's saying something, like I said before, when Woody Johnson owns that team. Because he's we probably have the top 2 worst owners. Not even worst. Like, they do care about the fans. I'll say that. Woody Johnson cares about his fan base. Sean Manaea cares about his fan base. But at the same time, they're the most incompetent owners in sports. And it will prove that Sean Manaea is the most incompetent owner in sports if he really does let go of Brian Daboll. Because Brian Daboll isn't Pat Shermer. Brian Daboll isn't Joe Judge or Ben McAdoo. He's just not. So I would go the route of bringing a new GM, say, hey, I like Brian Daboll. I want to keep him on this team. Let's see what we can do. But at the same time, if you bring in a GM and new GM and the new GM doesn't like Brian Daboll, so be it. So be it. But if you retain Joe Schoen and you let Brian Daboll go and you want Joe Schoen to hire another head coach, you want Joe Schoen to have another draft after he proved that he's a terrible drafter. Like I said before, his best draft pick so far has been Tyrone Tracy. Deontay Banks hasn't done what we've expected him to do. Same thing with Kayvon Thibodeau. Evan Neal has been a bust times 10. So it's going to be interesting. Knicks, let's go beat those T-Wolves on Friday and shove it in Julius Randle's mouth, because Julius Randle's not having fun. Well, at least Anthony Edwards doesn't seem to be having fun with Julius Randle throwing his whiny little fits. You guys know what I wanted to say there. His whiny fits on the court. And Devo, he's looking like a diva. But that's that for today. Thank you, whether you're watching on X, YouTube, or you're going to be watching on listening on Spotify, I should say, a little bit later. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to do me a favor, you're on YouTube and you're not subscribed, maybe hit subscribe. You want to hit like. I really don't care about the likes, but if you want to subscribe, that'd be awesome. And same thing for X. If you're on X and you're watching, click that like button, maybe even the retweet button. Why not? Help me out a little bit. Thanks, guys. Love you guys. Deuces.